Mike, you might have heard former NBA coach George Karl has an autobiography coming out, Fears George, where he legit speaks his mind. Karl said he basically wanted to tell the truth about what goes on in the NBA. However, not everyone has been fond of his thoughts. Is he surprised by this? Take a listen to what Karl said this morning on Mike and Mike.
The backlash was interesting, and a couple of things I learned from, I think, too. I think the big thing is I probably should have studied. I didn't know I probably should have studied what I was writing a little bit more than I did.
Coach, I know one of those more controversial issues that came out in the first round of the book here was the discussion about players being raised in single-parent homes without fathers there. Is there any more context you'd like to give to that statement? I know that was one that particularly came under scrutiny.
I'm sad that the part of it, I said it poorly, and I'm sorry that I said it poorly, and I'm sorry for the reaction. The one thing I love about Kenyon Martin, he is a good father. And the other thing that I like to say pretty strongly is I think there are so many great mothers that have come into this in the basketball world, in the NBA world, that have done a fantastic job. And that's what I wanted the book to be, just a bunch of stories that if you're sitting in a bar drinking beers, eating chicken wings, what happened? What happened in that locker room at that moment? I didn't want it to be, but it's turning out probably to be.
So George Karl surprised by the comments. Our insider Jeff Goodman here with us on Coast to Coast. Now, Jeff, George Karl kind of backing off from some of his comments, but they're still out there. What are you hearing as a perception of Karl after these comments have come out?
The biggest thing is when he had them about players that he coached, it was one thing, right? Carmelo he coached, J.R. Smith, Kenyon Martin. But now Damian Lillard?
He never coached him.
No, he never coached him. I mean, this is George Karl's kind of the gift that keeps giving right now with this book, and why. And I talked to some NBA people, and they said, go away at this point. You're not in the league. What are you doing here? Just go away, and the game has given you so much throughout your career. Why are you doing this? That was the overriding opinion of most of the NBA people I talked to, and even some of the players that he coached. One of them said, listen, I didn't have a problem with George Karl, but I was in the minority. Most of the guys on the team did not get along with him. He was abrasive. And I like George. Listen, he was here. I enjoyed listening to those stories. But it's different. He's had issues at every stop.
Now, you mentioned Damian Lillard, and you actually spoke to him after these comments came out from Karl. What did he tell you?
He was baffled. I mean, why is George Karl talking about me? Again, he never coached him. And I've spoken to also some of Lillard's teammates, and they said what a good leader that Damian Lillard at 26 years old has been, how hard he works. And George Karl took some shots at him. Lillard took the high road with me. He said, listen, I'm not going to address it. There's no point. I just don't understand where this is coming from.
Now, do you think with this book, his possibility of ever coming back to the NBA as a coach is shot?
I mean, this doesn't help him, but all it takes is one, right? Yeah. All it takes is one NBA GM to hire George Karl. He is a very good basketball coach. That's clearly the perception. What he's done at numerous stops, the guy can coach, but can he relate, can he get along with players these days with the type of personality that he brings to the table? If you look at it, what the NBA has gone with lately, the guys they brought in are Brad Stevens, Fred Hoiberg, guys like this, even keel, no ego guys, and George Karl's not that.
All right, Jeff Goodman, thank you so much for the insight. Now we're going to send it over to Al.